So, how much protein do runners really need? And 7 myths you should ignore. So, runners, I'm Dr. Ray Peralta. I'm a physical therapist and run coach. And for the past 10 years, I've helped hundreds of runners get faster, stay injury free, and build stronger, leaner bodies without falling into the latest nutrition gimmicks or marketing schemes. One of the biggest misconceptions I see: overeating protein. Yes, there are people who undereat, but now with the whole trend of like supplements companies, they're trying to tell you need really high protein when it's not actually helping performance. In this video, I'm going to share exactly how much protein runners actually need and break down 7 common myths that are holding runners back. So, whether you're training for a marathon or just trying to build lean muscle and recover better, this is for you. And if you want to train smarter, avoid injuries, and hit your running goals, check out my free training I have for runners linked in the description. So, first things first, how much protein do runners actually need? Sure, runners may need a little bit more protein than the sedentary person, the couch potato, but they don't have to necessarily consume a bodybuilder's worth, right? Just enough to support muscle repair and recovery and immune function. Here's the breakdown. The RDA, the recommended daily allowance for protein, is about 0.8 grams per kilogram per body weight. So that's just 56 grams of protein per day for a 150-pound runner or 70-kilogram runner. And it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It's just really based on weight, right? How much you weigh. So if you're 150 pounds or 200 pounds, it's going to be waste a gram per your body weight, whether in kilograms or pounds. If you're a competitive runner, maybe you're a competitive marathoner and or athlete, sure, you may need a little bit more than the recreational runner. Maybe you need to go up to like 1.2. And in very extreme cases, you might need to go to 2.2 grams. Like, let's say someone who's like really elite, like doing 100 plus miles a week, but not always. Even some of those folks still only eat like 1.2 grams, a kilogram per protein per day. Like oftentimes this 1 gram of lean 1 gram per pound of body weight per day is from like the bodybuilder community. Then it gets translated to endurance athletes, but very few endurance athletes, even competitive ones, actually need to go to 1 gram per pound of body weight per day. Sure, you can test this out, see how your body feels, but for most runners, 1.2 grams per kilogram per day is enough, right? So if we looked at the math there, right, just going to do this real quick: 1.2 grams per kilogram for like a 70 kilogram. That's only 84 grams of protein per day for a 150-pound runner, right? 84 grams. And this is assuming that they actually, that they're training so much that they need to eat a little bit more. And oftentimes it just happens naturally just by eating more. You don't necessarily have to supplement. So, what does that range look like? Again, for a 150-pound runner, that's just 56 grams to 84 grams per day. And then, sure, maybe in some extreme cases where they're really training high mileage, high volume, doing strength training, and a bunch of other training, they may go up to 112 grams per day. But very few really have to go to the 1 gram per pound of body weight, which for a 150-pound runner would be 150 grams of protein. But very, like I say, even when I try it myself, it just ends up being stored as fat. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So, myth number one: runners need massive amounts of protein to build muscle recover. Yes, runners need a little bit more protein than a couch potato, but not bodybuilder levels. You're not trying to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're just trying to recover from your runs, preserve lean mass, and maybe add some strength from your resistance work. So let's say you're, again, 150 pounds. That's just 56 grams of protein per day. All right. Um, and that's usually more than enough. The RDA is actually more than enough. Sure, you could go up to the 1.2 gram, which is at 84 grams. But again, you typically don't have to buy a bunch of supplements to stuff to do that. People confuse protein requirements with marketing. Again, a lot of fitness magazines say eat 1 gram per pound of body weight. That's 2.2 grams per kilogram, which is often double what endurance athletes actually need. More protein doesn't equal more muscle without strength training and total calorie surplus. You have to eat a lot more than you take in. Usually, excess protein either gets used for fuel or stored as fat, as body fat. Myth number two: you have to eat protein immediately after a run or workout. The idea of a 30-minute anabolic window has been widely exaggerated. Yes, it's true that post run nutrition helps with recovery, especially carbs for glycogen replenishment and protein for muscle repair. But studies now show that the window is more like a barn door. You have several hours. The real key: hitting your daily protein target and spreading it across maybe 3 meals, right? Maybe 20 to 30 grams of protein, right? 20, 40, 60. Boom. That's it. You already hit your daily allowance of protein. Even if you wanted to go up a little higher, right? Just 30 grams spread out the 3 meals a day. For example, breakfast, Greek yogurt and berries; lunch, lentils, rice and salad; dinner, tofu and quinoa. Boom. If you do eat something post run, that's great, but it's not, you don't have to worry, stress out that you didn't have a protein shake right after your workout. Myth number three, plant based proteins are inferior to animal based proteins. The truth, plant proteins are sufficient for runners as long as you're smart about food combining. It's true that most plant proteins are incomplete, meaning they lack one or more essential amino acids known as the EAAs. But when you combine different plant sources, beans and rice, hummus and whole grain pita, you get a complete profile, right? So yeah, so even if plant proteins have lower bioavailability, maybe 10 or 20% less, the real world difference is negligible if you're eating enough total protein. Bonus, plant based diets are higher in fiber, antioxidants, and anti inflammatory compounds, great for recovery and long term health. Myth number four, protein supplements are a must for runners. The truth, protein powders are just a tool, not a requirement. If you're training twice a day, traveling or have trouble hitting your daily protein through whole food, sure, you could do a shake. It's convenient, but you don't have to do a massively large shake. For most runners, eating a balanced meal means you don't need them. In fact, many runners naturally hit their protein needs in a day. Again, just eating like a bowl of oatmeal and some peanut butter, maybe some eggs or tofu, beans, lentils, tempeh, Greek yogurt, or plant-based yogurts, whole grains, nuts and seeds. Again, sure, I'm not saying you can't use supplements at all, but they're easy to overdo. I made this mistake myself. Where I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna scoop a bunch of protein thing that's gonna help my performance. When in fact, I was just getting a bit fatter and slower. I'm like, what the heck? This protein is being stored as fat. So they give you this false sense, oh, I'm doing something right. But when in fact, real world can whole foods, nutrition foods could work better. You get more of the phytonutrients and stuff without having to like shell out extra for protein supplements. Myth number five: high protein diets will damage kidneys. The truth, unless you have chronic kidney disease, this myth is typically not supported by science. Now, multiple studies on healthy individuals show that protein intakes well above the RDA, even up to the 2.2 grams per kilogram, do not cause kidney damage. That said, going extremely high in protein without adequate hydration or electrolytes and balancing other macros might not be ideal. I know some people are like, oh, I'm just going to keep my daily diet, just liquid diet, just going to have protein shakes throughout the day. That's not ideal. Often leads to imbalances. For runners, the truth is most don't even have to go that high. Yes, you may need a little bit more than a couch potato, right? Than the 0.8 gram, maybe you need to 1.2 grams, but you could again just get that from whole foods diet. Um, Myth number six, eating protein will make you bulk up. The truth, protein doesn't build muscle by itself. You need progressive overload, eating a lot more calories, and usually you need to eat a lot more carbs. That's the secret a lot of people don't know. If you actually want to bulk up, you actually need to eat a lot of carbs, uh, which is interesting, which bodybuilders and endurance athletes both need high carbs to actually maximize their performance. And the training stimulus, right? You actually need to start lifting heavier and heavier weights to stimulate the body, right? For example, if you're a runner, maybe you're a female runner eating 100 grams of protein per day, or even a male runner while training for like a half marathon, you're not going to necessarily bulk up. They're most likely, sure, it'll improve the recovery, reduce soreness, and preserve lean mass. But eating 1 gram per pound of body weight, again, is not going to necessarily lead to bulking up unless you're also eating more carbs. Because even myself, I've been in the boat where I ate 1 gram per pound of body weight. I was actually getting fat. I wasn't necessarily getting more muscle because I wasn't doing the right strength training to actually add more muscle to my frame. And you also need to get more carbs to help stimulate muscle growth. So it's not just about protein. Muscle gains training plus calories, and calories also includes carbs, and then time with enough to actually give yourself time to adapt. Protein is part of the picture, but not the whole thing. Myth number seven, protein should be the main nutrition focus for runners. The truth, protein matters, but carbs are king for runners. Your body actually runs like glycogen, not protein. Protein can be converted to glucose, but it's a more complicated process in the body and it's slower. It takes more time for you like to try to, go on a run trying to fuel up with protein when you should just be doing carbs. Underfueling carbs while overconsuming protein leads to sluggish runs, poor recovery, and burnout. Yes, runners need enough protein to build muscle, but your plate should still be mostly carbs, rice, potatoes, oats, fruit, veggies, some protein, chicken, tofu, beans, healthy fats, olive oil, nuts, and again, veggies for fiber and micronutrients. Think of it this way: carbs are the gas, protein is the mechanic. You need both, but one fuels the engine, the other keeps it from breaking down. And here's the thing: if you think about a human baby in its first few months of life, right, it actually doubles its size. And a human baby, like a newborn baby, is only eating breast milk, human breast milk, which only 5% protein. So like a cup of human breast milk is only 2.5 grams of protein compared to a glass of cow's milk, which is 8 grams of protein. Um, like a cup of cow's milk. So humans don't need to have a high protein, right? We're not cows. So if a human baby can grow that fast with just that little protein, why are we slamming 60 grams of protein shakes after a 30-minute jog, right? You don't need to slam a high protein shakes because fitness magazines want to sell you the protein powders. And don't trust anyone whose goal is to sell you something and then also write the science behind what they're selling, right? A lot of times these research articles that are promoting high protein diets are the same, are sponsored or funded by the supplement companies who are trying to sell you the high protein. You can build muscle, get stronger, and recover better with just 2 to 3 square meals per day. It doesn't have to be overly complicated, right? So, just again, if you're that 150-pound runner, right, you could just get by with 56. We'll call that 60 grams of protein per day, right? You could have, even if you did 2 meals a day, right, 30 grams in the morning, 30 grams in the evening. Boom, that's your 60 grams of protein. Done. So, if you want a smarter way to fuel your runs, avoid injury while getting faster, and you just want to learn more about what I do, check out the link in the description to check out my free training for runners, and I'll show you how to build a body that's strong and athletic, an athletic runner, without having to waste a bunch of money on supplements or falling into the latest fad.